In today's video, we're going to set up a Google Search Ads campaign from start to finish in under 10 minutes. Hey, I'm Daryl from Big Flare. At my Google Ads agency, we average above a 500% return on ad spend for our clients. In this full Google Ads search tutorial, I will show you exactly how to go about creating your campaigns quickly so that you too can get business boosting results like ours. We're going to go through this fairly quickly, but don't worry. If you click the link in the description below, you'll get access to my PDF guide that shows you how to do this. Download the guide, then watch the rest of this video to get an idea of how it's done. Afterwards, when you come to setting up your campaigns, you can look at the guide for reference. All right, with that said, let's hop over to my computer so we can start setting up our Google Ads search campaigns. All right, so here we are in our Google Ads account, and the first thing you want to do is, of course, come over here and click the little plus button here and click on New Campaign. Now you're going to choose a campaign objective, and usually if you're e-commerce, you're going to want to choose the sales objective. If you're doing lead gen, then you're probably going to go for the leads objectives, but normally you're going to go for one of these two guys over here. Now we're going to set up an example e-commerce campaign, so I'm going to hit sales. It's going to ask you to confirm your conversion goals, and it's going to throw up the conversion goals that you have in your account already. Now, in this case, this would be fine. It's got my purchase goal. That's the most important goal for e-commerce. It's also auto-added my submit lead form goals because we do have some lead forms on this site. Now, this is going to be fine if all these goals are set as secondary, but I just want to check that. So if I come over to my conversions here, which you can access, by the way, by going to Tools and Settings and clicking on Conversions. If you're going to add more of your account default conversion goals down in here, you just want to make sure that you've only got one primary goal, which is your purchases for e-commerce, or one primary goal, which is your main lead form if you're doing lead gen. Now, in this case, for this particular client, I do see that we've got one purchase primary goal. That's fine. Everything else is secondary, which means even if I add it as a goal, it's not going to count towards my main conversion column in Google Ads, which is what I want. And I do notice that for this particular account, we have some lead forms that are set to primary. So that's not good because this campaign, I just want to be tracking sales. I'm focusing on sales in this campaign. I don't want other primary conversion goals to contribute to my conversion column. So in this case, I'm just going to take out the goals that I'm not using for this particular type of campaign. Focus on the primary goal that's most relevant to you, whether that's purchases or lead form signups. And then once you've done that, you can click continue. Next up, we're going to select a campaign type, and we are setting up a search campaign today. So there you go. Then you can select the primary way that you want to reach your goal. In most cases, that's going to be website visits, and then you'll be asked to insert your website domain. So let's stick that in there, nikura.com. Next up, you've got your campaign name. So put something that makes sense in for you here. I do recommend that you have a sensible structure for your campaign naming, like have a convention that makes sense to you. In my case, I normally like to call it by the campaign type. And then in this case, we're going to be setting up a non-brand campaign that's focused on products. So I usually like to just call that product. Do you want to continue finishing a saved draft or start a new campaign? Start a new campaign. Okay, the first thing this campaign creation flow is going to ask you is about your bid strategy. What I normally recommend doing here is unticking this box here. It's normally not a great idea to start straight out of the gate on a brand new campaign with a specific target cost per acquisition or target return on ad spend. It kind of limits the system's bidding a little bit, and you don't really want to do that if this is a brand new campaign, especially if it's a brand new account. So we're just going to untick that. And for lead gen, it's totally fine to focus on maximizing conversions. That's probably what you want. For e-commerce, you're probably going to want to tab over to conversion value because that's where you can focus more on boosting your revenue, which for most e-commerce advertisers is the primary goal. So here we have it. Focus on boosting conversion value, and let's not set a target return on ad spend just yet. Click on next, and we're going to go over to campaign settings. Always untick this fella here. Do not advertise on the display network within your search network campaign. This is what we used to call an idiot tax setting. It's one of those default settings that Google Ads leaves on for you in the hope that you'll just kind of leave it ticked and maybe spend a bit of money on display network, which often wastes a bunch of money. So untick that. Do leave this one ticked. I do recommend trying out search partners. You can check the data later just to make sure it works out for you. But what we normally find is that search partners performs at a decent cost per acquisition or return on ad spend and is worth leaving on. Select your location, make sure the language is set correctly. And now you want to add some audience segments. So let's open this one up here. And you want to leave this on observation. You don't want this to affect your bidding. Don't choose targeting, choose observation. Head over to browse and add all the audiences in here that are relevant to you. So I do recommend adding some in-market audiences. Go through the list in more detail than I'm doing here, because this is just an example, and add all the in-markets that are relevant to you. Definitely add in your data segments. This is your retargeting list, so we want to focus on website visitors and just kind of add all of them. There's no cost to doing this. If you've already set up all these audiences here, add them in. They're in observation mode, which means they won't actually be changing the performance of the campaign, but they're there so that we can observe the data and make some smarter decisions later down the line. So once you've added in your audiences, and just to recap, I would say add in your data segments, add in market, and go after affinity as well. So browse through here and just add in any affinity audiences that are relevant to you. Next up, broad match keywords, no. Just no for new campaigns. Maybe we can tackle broad match keywords later, but for new campaigns, I recommend starting with phrase match and exact match. So we are just going to select no, leave it off. Let's not do that today. Automatically created assets, also a no. We're going to create our own ads. That's just going to perform a lot better. Under more settings, if we click on more settings here, optimize, prefer best performing ads. I do recommend leaving that as is. Start and end dates, we're normally just going to start the campaign right away. Ad schedule, you can edit the ad schedule if you're doing lead gen and perhaps your salespeople or your phone people aren't in the office on the weekends. You can set up an ad schedule there. Brand restrictions, campaign URL options, we don't normally need to change those. You can add campaign URL options if you're using, say, a third-party attribution tracking platform that requires you to add UTM parameters or something like that. For the most part, though, we don't normally need to fill that bit out. And then we can head over to keywords and ads. Now, Google is going to auto-suggest a bunch of keywords for you here, and you can see that these keywords are all really different. We're just creating our first ad group at the moment, so I recommend you just don't use these suggestions at all, because they're just too different. It wants to set up all these keywords with the same ad copy, and actually it's much better to put some of these keywords into different ad groups, because something like best air diffuser is going to want totally different ad copy to something like essential oil companies. So let's just get rid of Google's suggestions there. I've prepared some keywords here that I'm going to use, and this is more the structure that you want to use. You want to create ad groups that are tightly themed, and in this campaign setup flow, we are just creating one ad group at first. So let's start with the first ad group, and then after creating the campaign, you can come back and create the other ad groups. But you want to start with one ad group first, tightly themed keywords, and for this particular ad group, let's go after essential oils. So let's put these keywords in there. Now, if you leave your keywords written like that, it is going to default to broad match, which, as I mentioned, we don't want for a new campaign. So we put quotation marks around the keyword, and then that ensures we're going to be using phrase match for these keywords, which is a much better and targeted way to start a brand new campaign. Now we want to fill out the ad copy, and I'm just going to fill this out quickly, and then we will skip ahead to when it's filled out so that I can explain to you what I've done. All right, so now I've filled out most of this ad copy form, and let me just explain to you what we've done here. Display path, you want to make this keyword rich, so I have just stuck in the exact keyword that we're targeting here, essential, then oils. You don't get a lot of space with this. Next up, you can go up to 15 headlines. I've just filled out 5 headlines as an example. I do recommend you go all the way up to the full 15 and do a mix of headlines. So you want to do a mix of brand-focused headlines where you mention your brand. You want to do some keyword headlines where you mention the exact keyword that you're targeting in this ad group. And then you want to do some value and benefit-based headlines, mention your shipping or any deals that you have, and then go all the way up to the 15 mark to really max out your headlines. Next up, descriptions. Same principle. Put in your keywords, your values, your benefits, mention pricing if your pricing is quite good and competitive, and use all 4 of your description fields, because with all these ad copy elements, the more the merrier. The more options you give Google, the more testing it can do, and the higher your CTR goes, as it has more options to find higher CTR combinations for your ads. Add a bunch of images, as many as you can. When you click the plus button here to add images, it's going to scan your site and social media platforms for images to easily add. You can also upload your own images here, so upload images that are compelling and relevant to the keywords that you're targeting in your first ad group. Business name, enough said, put your business name in there, add your logos here. And then you're going to be able to add site links and more asset types here. So with site links, you can click the plus box to start adding your site links. And I just recommend you add as many of those as possible. So what you want to do is find different pages on your site, add those as individual site links. So you can see some of the site links we've added here, the fragrance oil page, the essential oil gift sets page. So add 10 to 20 pages from your site, create a title for your site link to accompany that page that you're adding from your site, and really just add as many of these site links as you can to give Google as many options as possible to find the winning combination of site links that works for you and your ads. Same concept with the asset types down here. These are all little ad extensions that you can add. You can add in any promotions that you're doing, like you might be doing a 20% off promotion at the moment. Anything that you're doing that's a promotion on the site, you want to add in here. Price extensions, definitely fill those out. So for each of these, for any that you can add, just add them, like call outs. These are little pieces of text where you can call out things like if you have a free delivery offer or if you have great customer service. Fill out as many of those as you can. And then a lot of these you might not be able to fill out. Like if you're an e-commerce advertiser, you might not want to use lead forms, or you might not be an app advertiser. So this isn't relevant, but for every little asset type that is relevant to you, fill it out as extensively and as fully as you possibly can. Next, we're going to click done. And then we've created our ads and we can click next. Now we need to set a budget. Google is going to auto recommend a rather large budget. Yeah, thanks Google, not going to do that. I recommend setting a custom budget, something that makes sense to you. Like this one, we might want to start at 200 per day. It'll give you a little reading of the estimated weekly conversions. Take that with a pinch of salt. You don't really know until you launch. And click over to next. And last up, we are going to review our campaign. It's going to pull up the details right here. So now you just want to check that everything on this page is correct. That all looks good to me. And if it all looks good to you at this stage, then you can click publish. All right, you are now all set up and ready to go with your Google Search Ads campaign. Exciting times. Now, it wasn't within the scope of this video to give you a full breakdown of my strategies for writing high-performing ad copy. I do have a full video on that though, which you can check out right here. And while you're at it, do be sure to give me a like and subscribe if you got some value out of this video. It means a lot to me and helps ensure that I can continue to post videos as good as this one every week.